Hello, Scrappy Peeps! Suzanna here today for Spiegel Mom Scraps, and I'm here to share with you another Pinspired project. So this is a sketch that I found on Pinterest. It is actually created by Ashley Horton for Chic Tags, which is no longer in business, and that is the layout that I created based on that sketch. So the sketch has a header, a footer, a square photo in the center with a background, and then a bunch of stars that kind of sprinkle down the left-hand side of the photo. I wanted to create a Christmas layout with this, and so instead of the stars, I have used those white flowers, and I have used a Spiegel Mom Scraps sequence mix that was designed to actually go with this collection, or I've decided that it was designed to go with that collection, and that mix is called Country Christmas. And actually, it's not called Country Christmas, it's called Elegant Winter. But I did also use Country Christmas in the sequence mix, and you'll see that as we get closer towards the end of the layout. So what I've done as I've been talking is I wanted to use a little bit more green. I didn't buy any of the pattern paper or embellishments that had the green in the collection, and I wanted to incorporate a little bit more into the layout. So I used a stencil and some old Studio Calico, some Mr. Huey's Mist, and sprayed that through the green. My stencil wasn't long enough for the piece of white cardstock that I used, and so I just overlapped the stencil and covered up the border of it so that I would have a contiguous amount of pattern paper that was stenciled there. Not pattern paper, cardstock, I'm sorry, I apologize. And then I am going to fussy cut the flowers out of a pattern paper from my mind's eye, and so I wanted to still have the pine cones and some of the fun Christmas pine boughs that are in the collection. I just didn't want to have to fussy cut all of that, so what I did was I just ran them through my Big Shot there, and I skipped through part of that. So my original intent was to use that bag as the pocket for my sequins, but the problem is that you really miss all the beautiful color of the sequins if they are in the bag. So what I did was I used an old product bag. I think this is from, actually, you know, honestly, I think this is from it's a 6x8. I'm not sure. Oh, I know what it is. The thickers. It's not a thickers, but the stickers, the Dear Lizzie stickers came in that, and so I just used that, and I'm going to run upstairs and I'm going to sew in black down the edge of that, and so in essence it creates a shaker pocket. You could very easily use an old page protector, you know, one of those Project Life ones, and you could use your fuse if you wanted to and fuse it. I actually wanted that black to be visible, and I wanted that thread hanging from the pocket, and again, just to add a little bit more movement and dimension to the layout there. I did add some of the red from Country Christmas because this collection is pretty Christmassy. It's got the black, it's got the white, the red, and the green, and so I wanted to throw a little bit of that extra added color into the collection. So I am going to cut 3 of these flowers. Now, the stars in the sketch are not anywhere near as big as what I have for these flowers that I've cut out, fussy cut from the pattern paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out those 2 there, and then I'm actually going to cut out a 3rd flower, and I'm going to, rather than keep it at the size that it is on the pattern paper, I'm just going to cut in from the border, which will allow me to shrink down the flower there. And if you look at the pattern paper from my mind's eye, you'll see that there are pine cones. So you see I've got the brown pine cones that are there. And then there are some boughs that are coming out from the flowers. And so I will attempt to use some of those, but I don't actually use as many as I cut out because it really didn't need that much green. So I have a heavier header on the top, and then I have that thinner border at the bottom. I wanted a little bit of the asymmetry so that your eye was not stuck to the center of the page. And so in order to provide a little bit of variety to the bottom there and almost give the illusion of it being the same, I'm going to use this stamp from Ellie's Studio, and I'm going to stamp that in black along the bottom there, which you can see just adds a little bit more interest and provides just that tad bit more weight, and the extra weight comes from the color of using that black ink down the bottom there. So I've pretty much constructed the whole layout. I know what elements are going to be on this. It's just now time to adhere them. So there's that sequins pocket. There's the picture of my kitty at Christmas with her Christmas collar on. It's a bit of a tradition that every year I go to a Christmas bazaar, and there is a place that sells cat and dog collars, and every year I buy her a new Christmas collar. So that, you can see the smaller flower that I cut there is going to be replacing the stars that are in the sketch by Ashley. And I felt that I wanted to fill in some of those holes and put in a few more fun elements there. So I'm going to actually dig into my Tuesday morning stash. Yay, me busting out through some of these Tuesday morning things. And so this is from a fairly recent haul, probably about 3 weeks ago, where I was able to pick up some Christmas goodies. And so I've used some of those Echo Park brads, only I used the chipboard pieces. I had the bows out, but really it didn't go. It didn't fit with the layout, so I just ended up using those. And then I've got some old Ellie's Studio from last Christmas. I bought the December Daily, or the Document Your December collection, which has the same colors as this collection from My Mind's Eye. So I went and threw some of that in there. And then, yay, more Tuesday morning stash bashing. This is from Crate Paper, and I'm going to use two of the sentiment stickers from there. I believe one says Merry Christmas, and the other, I don't have the layout in front of me, so hold on one second. I'm trying not to fall off of my stool as I tell you what the other one says. I know one, oops, and then of course I dropped it. One of them says Merry Christmas, and the other says The Magic of Christmas. I lied, it didn't say Merry Christmas either. It says Holiday Wishes. And as I was building the layout, I realized that the only red really is the header and the footer of the layout, and I wanted a little bit of red behind her to pop her off of the green, which actually draws your eye down to the sequins pocket and the green behind. So I found from last year's Crate Paper collection that plaid red, and I just have a very thin strip of that behind her, as well as I popped that up on some foam so that the sequins doesn't actually scratch against the back of the photo there. As I was recording my voiceovers the other day, I wanted to also point out to you that many of you probably see me running my fingers across my photo. I print my photos at home, and I print on a matte paper, so I don't have to worry about the oils of my fingers smudging or smearing on my photos. So something to be cognizant of when you see me designing what my particular projects. So I'm going to use some glue, liquid glue, to apply these really fine cut pine cones. And the rest of it is self-adhesive, really. I do put a couple of hearts from Ellie's Studio, and then in a mix from, those are from Ellie's Studio, and then I'm going to go in and finish off the layout with the sequins mix. So I am also going to use the combination of the two that I specified earlier here to scatter throughout. I've got the flowers from Elegant Winter, and I've got the red pieces from Country Christmas to just add a splash of red to that. And I love the way that this is not quite the sketch, but it is my interpretation of the sketch, and I've made it my own. So just because the sketch calls for stars doesn't mean that you have to use good stars. Those of you who have seen my sketches, I always use hearts on my sketches in place of embellishments, but that doesn't mean that you have to use only hearts. You can use whatever it is that your heart desires as an embellishment cluster, and that's what that specifies when I create sketches, is here goes an embellishment cluster. Title work. So I pulled out those letters from Jenny Bolin. Unfortunately, the green wasn't the right green. They would have looked really cool on that layout though, so I abandoned those and I'm going with these really old Cosmo Cricket letters. I used them recently on another layout, which is how I became aware of the fact that they were in my collection. And I'm going to do the Suzanna title shuffle, and I'm going to stick them down, I'm going to move them, and even though I move them down, I'm going to move them again over to above where Belle is on the page. While the sketch called for the letters to be there and for the title to be on that left-hand side, I made the executive decision that I was going to move them to the right because it just felt like this eyesore hanging out on the left-hand side, and it didn't feel like they fit into the layout as well as they do over here on the right hand side. So that's why I move them, and then I'm going to use these black puffy stickers from an old Cocoa Daisy kit to finish off color and finish off the title there. There is no journaling on this layout, and I'm okay with it. It's her Christmas color. What more is there to say about it? So that is my Pinspired layout. I hope you enjoyed this process video, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the box down below. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.